Greetings and welcome to the Lumbertron podcast. It's a new year and thus a new season of storytelling begins right here. I'm your one and only host, Tyler Woods. Well, my first guest of 2020 is the wonderful Emily Shimada. Emily is a student of life who holds freedom in high regard. Freedom to move, freedom to share, freedom to be authentic. Together, we dipped into that secret sauce that only comes from focused storytelling on a winter's day in Wallingford, Washington. We even got a surprise visit from George the cat, a fluffy love hog. I saw so much of myself in Emily's story and came away with love in my heart and a spring in my step. Let's take a listen to some of that magic. Welcome to the Lumbertron podcast.
Thank you.
We're hanging out in Fremont, Washington?
Wallingford-ish area.
Wallingford-ish, Washington, with Emily.
Hi, that's me.
Hey!
Hi.
What's up, Emily?
Not much. Just hanging out.
Cool.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. You got some nice hardwood floors to dance around the microphone during this interview.
Yes, super important.
Yeah, very important. So, well, we'll just start with the broadest and biggest question, Emily. Who are you?
Who am I?
Who are you?
Whoa. Broadest and biggest question. Who am I? I'm a human, mostly.
Okay, we got that on the taxonomy chart.
Yeah.
Human.
I'm a human, and I think how I would identify myself these days is a mover. And yes, and a community member, and a partner, and a family member, and yeah, like a citizen of Earth, like here to spread love
that sounds
and
pretty
joy.
woo. I like it. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So, community member. What kind of communities are you involved in? Moving communities?
Yeah.
Earth communities?
Earth communities. Ohm culture is probably the first community that I would say is like the dominant one in my life that has just totally helped me be who I feel like I am and helped me feel more connected to myself and to people around me and just really seen and felt.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Ohm culture is ecstatic dance,
community in Seattle,
community movement, yoga,
so many things, and just such wonderful people, like
just open, authentic human beings.
Yes, come as you are, be who you are. Just permission to be.
Just a good place to be.
All
right, so it's one of your tribes.
It's one of my tribes.
Awesome.
I think another tribe is Pure Seattle. Pure Seattle, it's a nonprofit in Capitol Hill, which used to be Seattle Area Support Groups, and they do, and here's the cat. Yes, George is here. And we do, a lot of peer work with different populations, anything that one needs support with. So everything from mental health to addiction to like relationship support and community services. And it's just like a great place to have that network of connection and people like on your team. And it's really growing right now.
It's really cool. Can we dive in on that? So what is it? Pure, like
P-E-E-R.
Okay, like people, like peers.
Yes, peers,
gotcha.
Exactly.
And so what is your like relation to that? Do you do things for them? Are you a member of it? How does this fit into your life?
Yeah, so I've been involved with them, I think for 3 years. It was my first community when I moved to Seattle. And right now I am a peer coach there, so I work one-on-one with people, and there's a community of peer coaches in Seattle and starting also in Spokane because we're expanding, which is great. And then I also do a weekly support group that is movement and meditation on Tuesdays today, later today.
Spreading the movement, that's fantastic.
Yeah, because I think a lot of support groups are mostly talking and processing, which is great. It's like amazing to have a space like that with peers that are just like there to hear you and to be with you. And I think a piece that's missing is movement.
Yes.
And nonverbal communication and processing and integration. And so that was something I really wanted to bring in. I think we have more meditation support groups now, which is great. So it is that nonverbal, quiet, sitting awareness aspect. And I think movement has so much to teach us. We can grow so much from that also.
Yeah, that's super cool. So do you have a history of leading groups like this, of being a peer facilitator, or how did you bring that into, you said it was your first group in Seattle. What were you bringing in, and where'd you come from?
I'm from Vancouver, Washington, and then I moved a few places like for college, and then came back to Vancouver and then landed in Seattle. And the first group, when they were Seattle area support groups, I did a Buddhist meditation support group and really liked that and kind of just fell into that role. Yeah. And then at some point I was like, wow, I really think that movement would add a lot to this kind of environment. And so I just transformed my group into movement and meditation.
Yeah. So has movement always been a part of your life? How far does that go back with Emily?
Yeah, I would say, everybody has some kind of movement background, right? We are movers by nature. And I think I did a lot of different things growing up, and then when I was more of college and adult, I was into like fitness and like being fit and being fit or being healthy.
Yeah. So what is
going
fit
to the gym
and healthy mean? What are those words? What are those things?
Oh wow!
What did they mean to you then?
I think at the time it was a very different practice. So what I would say now, like my relationship with movement is about being just exploring and loving how we can move in our body and like what a gift that is and what we can do with that and loving it just for the sake of that. Yeah. And at the time, I think, especially growing up like as a female with, a lot of body image messages and thinking that I needed to be a certain way, I was, probably a little obsessively like fitness and health and eating certain things and doing it to kind of like look and feel a certain way.
Yeah, trying to conform to something. Yes. Something coming in from the world. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so it feels like I have a very different relationship with my body and with movement or with like health now than I did back then. So I would say movement culture, capital M. I've got introduced to this world about a year ago from David Bellina and just like totally took off from there, like really fell in love with like what movement was. And
just a year ago then?
Yeah, it's just a year ago.
Exponential growth.
Yeah. And I think about 6 months before that is when I first found Om culture and ecstatic dance. Again, not having any like ecstatic dance background or knowing what that was, and then coming in and just being like totally swept away with like the beauty and the connection and the expression that was available there.
Did you have anything like that in your life beforehand? Places where you could be kind of, I guess, authentic, be yourself, be spiritual? Was there any spirituality in your life?
Yeah, I would say that I explored different spiritual programs, probably for maybe 2 years before I found ecstatic dance, and I was kind of searching and like trying things on, but I hadn't quite found something that provided this space to be so freely and purely oneself and like without words. I think that's one of the beauties of ecstatic dance or movement, is that we can communicate and be in a way that is without like needing to use our words or explain ourselves or describe something. Like we can just move freely, and that I can't quite capture how much it's changed my life and what it has done for me, and I'm sure you can like resonate with that.
It's hard to explain something without words with words.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I can begin to kind of get the feeling that it really is a big part and big important step in where you are now.
Yeah, I would say I think dance and movement is the most important thing in my life.
What are some of those other more important things in your life? Dance. What percentage of dance is the chunk of it?
Dance and movement. Well, dance and movement, I mean, like, what's dance and what's movement,
Yeah,
right? Depending on the lens you're looking
The movement
through.
cut of the pie.
Yeah, I would say more than half.
Yeah. Good, cool, very nice.
More than half. And what else is present in my life is also, like, how to use that for something I'm very interested in diving into lately is, like, trauma healing and, like, nervous system support, and how to kind of use those things to support each other, and, like, how movement in the body can be used to
somatic healing.
Yeah, like somatic healing. And I think what I realized for myself, which was like part of what brought me to this, is how much more freedom I felt mentally and emotionally after having freedom in my body in dance, and how I was much more able to be with difficult things, or be aware of different like sensations or feelings, or how other people were feeling. And it's kind of like, I can't quite explain like how that happens, although it like makes total sense to me, like freedom and flexibility.
Just brought a new level of awareness to yourself.
Yeah.
Has that been able to help you connect with others better?
Yeah. And like that's very important to me, I think, in the work that I do at Peer Seattle and in peer coaching, is I want to be like so available for the person that's in front of me, or for the people or the group that's in front of me, to really see them where they are and know what it's like for them. And I think a lot of the reading about what's happening on the like our nervous system level, so apart from like maybe our thoughts or feelings even, how automatic that can be and how ingrained that is, and how difficult that can be to shift away from, which is where a lot of like
patterns.
Yes, like patterns, which is where a lot of like valuable information and like transformation can come.
Yeah. So have you done any other kind of, I don't know, personal work in relation to like, you know, emotions, feeling, empathy, being available emotionally to others, boundaries? Because when I think of like peer work like that, I imagine that involves a lot of emotional, energetic boundaries. People bringing in their stuff, and you want to like work on them. You don't want to mesh the two things. So speak to that in any way you can.
It's definitely a fine line, and I think especially for people like myself that feel very connected and like empathic. It is. It's a journey to see like where that line is, and like where I can show up and be supportive and comfortable and effective, and like doing that, and also like hold my own space. I've done a lot of work with Landmark. Have you heard of Landmark?
I've heard of Landmark. Let's explain Landmark.
Yeah, Landmark is like, I think what they call it is personal and professional development, and it's really done. It's, I think, one of the most important things I've done in my life, I would say.
All right, get your notebooks out, folks. This is important.
And it's one of those, it's kind of like movement. It's so hard to like encapsulate and describe because it has to be experienced. Yeah. And so even myself, who I think I did it 2.5 or 3 years ago, was my first forum weekend, that it's still hard for me to like deliver like what it actually is, because what it is not necessarily doesn't really matter, but what did it do for you? What was Emily like before Landmark? Great. And what's Emily like now? That's a great question. Before Landmark, I was a lot up in my head, and I was trying to figure out who I was supposed to be in the world. That's a good question. Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up either. And what I got after Landmark was so much more freedom, like mentally and emotionally. It's kind of, I guess that's why this looks like a theme for me, is things that bring me freedom. Freedom is a core value. Yeah, core value. Freedom is a core value of mine. And I was able to connect with people more deeply, which is also something that's very important to me, and really show up and be different with my family and those people that mattered to me in my life. And I saw things for myself too, like I think we were talking about patterns earlier, patterns that I had no idea were running my life. And I got to like step outside myself and see those. And it's kind of like, it kind of hits you like a ton of bricks. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, whoa, I've been doing this for so long that I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Yeah, bringing that unconscious out from behind you and actually seeing like,
yes,
oh, maybe this is not a good thing, or just like being aware.
Yes.
So.
Being aware. And it can be kind of intense, and it's exactly what I wanted and needed.
Yeah.
I tend to like that though, so.
So, after you were made aware of some of those patterns, what kind of work did you like become comfortable with them? Did you seek out more like healing adventures? I mean, so what kind of struggles and changes have you had since then? Clearly, this is just one step of many.
Yeah, I think the thing that, and I know that we've talked about this, the thing that I have been facing this past year is an eating disorder, which is something I was running from for a long time, and I was so in denial about.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Denial.
Yeah, I was in such denial, and it took a really good friend of, who's now a really good friend of mine, kind of telling me her journey, and I was just like, whoa, I do all those things, like, whoa. And I think it's such a part of our culture is this like hypervigilance with food and body image, that it was just like, oh, this is just like normal, this is just how it is, like this is, I've been around this my whole life, like, and getting present to the pain that's been causing me and how much it's been keeping me out of my life and out of my relationships has been very eye-opening, and one of the biggest things I think I've faced ever.
Yeah, that's super huge. And like being in the fitness space, it's really hard to see like what is authentic preference with food and what is disordered, orthorexic, conforming to some ideal. It just seems like everything is very normalized, and when it becomes like mainstream health movement stuff. Yeah. So
absolutely. Like diet culture is so pervasive in our culture.
Oh,
yeah.
Those words are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of healing have you done in this avenue? What's changed for you?
It's a great question. I was actually reflecting this year on like what I really want to bring in, what I want to continue to heal.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, we want to heal in 2020.
Yeah, and I think I just want to stay on this trajectory because how different I have been, and maybe like 6 months ago to now, is profound. And I like never thought. I still think I have like a ways to go and things to do, and every day keep continuing on that path. But stops. Just the vast difference in how far I've come.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how controlled I was by food and by my body, and how I felt about that on a day-to-day basis. And like at the end of the day, I remember a friend of mine saying this and how deeply this like resonated with me. At the end of the day, like whether it was a good day or a bad day depended on how much food I ate and how much I exercised and what my body looked like.
Yeah.
And not even seeing it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And the amount of effort that goes into that like concept of taking all that effort out, imagine how much easier life could be, how much room there could be to have a full life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I've seen that the most in the fact that I realized how much, and also, and I'm in support groups for this, and I remember reading and hearing this from my dietitian and counselor, like it's not actually about food or your body, it's about control, and not quite understanding that.
Yes, and it's always about control.
It's always about control. And just like it took me so long to really feel that, because I'd be like, it really feels like it's about my body, or it really feels like it's about my food, like using food. And then when I saw how much it was about controlling my feelings and my like really resistance to my own feelings and coping with that through like through all of those factors was just like, wow, it's like true. And but it's another one of those things that I had to feel that before I could believe it.
Yeah.
Like you said, like it frees up so much more space. And the first thing that I notice is that it frees me up to actually understand and feel what's going on emotionally for me. And I think this is like something else that is pretty like standard in our culture, is kind of this resistance and discomfort with emotions.
Yeah. Was that scary at any point?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So scary. It's still scary.
Yeah.
And I just keep telling myself, like, this is a feeling. And I have this little saying that I'm like, the scariest thing in the world to me is my own feelings. There's no actual danger.
My hand is up. I hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm my own worst enemy and best friend.
Yeah. It's just like there is very rarely any actual danger. It's how I feel about something. So when it comes down to it, it's the feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how this cat feels. We're right at home, just rolling on the microphone.
Yeah.
Just getting all the loves.
Yeah, this is George.
I think George could teach us a thing or two about unconditional love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the gifts of animals, is presence and unconditional love.
Those are the two biggest things I got to work on. I really struggle with staying present, thinking about the future, what I have to do, what's next. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something else that I really got present to at Landmark, was how much we live in the past, that we live in the future, and that what we often do too is we put our past into our future. So when we're like projecting or thinking like what's it going to be like, our reference point is what it's been like before. Yes. And so how we're not even open to the future, it's just like our past.
Just creating the future with the building blocks of the past that I've already got, and just building that track out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that makes total sense. And yes, that's what I've been doing.
So much to think on, George. I don't know where to start. That's okay. It's all gonna work out.
Yeah.
So do you have any like daily practices that you do for things like meditation, mindfulness? What kind of tools do you have to help you stay grounded in this whole past, future, present business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's see. What do I do? That's something also that I'm like looking at. Like I want to like have like a really good daily like routine practice. I would say the biggest one that I do is movement and shaking. And I do like, I'm always like, I want to have more of a stillness practice, and I do it like not on a daily basis. Yeah, I do it. But for me, what has been more accessible is doing meditation through like some kind of movement. So like shaking is my go-to.
Moving meditation, a mindful movement.
Yes. Yeah. Even like something like spinal waves, like that is so much, I find that way more accessible to like center, focus, like come
either
to my
way,
body.
It's dropping into your body. And
Yeah.
I think that's an important piece.
Yeah. I would say shaking is one thing I do every day. That's my favorite. Also got that from David. Shaking
is good.
Yeah.
Shaking is great reset.
That's something I also do in my weekly group every week. Yeah.
That's really, I think the Mankind Project could use more movement. There's a lot of sharing of emotions, but I think some movement could really liven things up.
Is the Mankind Project, is that your men's group?
Yeah, so I, much like you, I hear so much in your Landmark story, and I can resonate that with going through the Mankind Project Warrior Training Weekend, which was kind of like Emotions 101 for me, and going from my head to my heart, and being able to connect with people, and so, yeah, and now that takes the form of just sitting in circle once or twice, once every other week or something like that, and just sharing and
Yeah, there's so much power in sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I just read, there's a quote from The Body Keeps the Score, which is a book I'm reading right now, that is, sharing is the opposite of being traumatized. Might need some more unpacking.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah. But from what I read, like what trauma does is it kind of like locks us into this state, and we can't actually like feel what it was like. And
sharing and reliving that is kind of like an antithesis of holding the wound. I guess that's what heal.
Yeah. Okay, like that.
That's cool. Yeah. If we're gonna throw quotes out there, then
I love quotes.
One of my favorite quotes are great.
Yes.
I remember something my therapist said a while ago, and it was just fear is the absence of love. And I was like, it's pretty cool. And then eventually I got the book, which was what is it, like joy, it's fear is the absence of joy or something like that. It was a book written in like the 20s or the early 1900s about just like choosing joy over fear, and how just making that choice can flip everything. All the perspectives can just be like, oh, I could be happy right now if I wanted to. Yeah.
Love
doesn't have to, fear doesn't have to serve me. Yeah.
And like, or I don't have to choose to like listen to the fear or be with the fear longer than
it still has its place. Don't have to get rid of it, but
yeah, it's impossible to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So like,
if trying to get rid of an emotion, that's exactly how to have a bad time.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think another lesson that I've really been learning is with, like you said, like trying to get rid of emotion, like you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That just acknowledging and being with an emotion, like allowing myself to like feel that in my body, and however that needs to come through. If I just give it the attention that it wants, the emotion or the feeling, it will pass. And it's like so many things that just want to like have their place, and then it will go.
Which do you let's say which emotion is a hard one for you to express, and which one is like a go-to? Like, do you have some?
Yeah, let's see.
Because I'd say for me, for the longest time, shame was a go-to when I've triggered by something, or like feeling bad, it would go to shame. And anger, I've never been I've always told myself I wasn't an angry person. And then as I've become more mindful, it's anger doesn't serve me. I don't need to be angry about this, and not truly processing being mad about something. So that's always been a tough one for me.
Yeah, anger was a tough one for me for a long time, and I also told myself, like, I'm not an angry person. And then I found the Enneagram. Have you heard of the Enneagram at all?
I don't think so. What's that?
It's kind of like a personality framework, ego development framework that's also been like a really important part of my life. And when I found this and found out that I was a type 9, a peacemaker, and that it's so common for peacemakers to just think, I'm not an angry person, and have no healthy expression of anger and just kind of deny it, and this underlying rage component that's present. And so part of my work as I went through that was it's like, oh, I'm gonna identify when I'm angry and like say the words, I'm angry, until it like leaves me. And I think I started doing that like maybe a year, 2 years ago, and it's been really liberating. I think I still could have other things to learn there, I'm sure, and just like naming the feeling has been powerful. So sometimes I'll just
That's
like
super
be in
cool.
my car.
Yeah, because I've heard all these strategies of like getting anger out through hitting things or just like yelling or stuff like that. But you found power in just naming it.
Just naming it, and sometimes I'll name it with passion or some fire.
I'm pissed off.
Usually in the like container safety of my own car, but just like repeating over and over again, like I'm so angry, I'm so angry, I'm so frustrated, I'm so angry, like helps it dissipate.
That's awesome. That is super cool.
Yeah. But I would say also shame is a go-to one for me. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with issues around like food or eating disorder thing is like a common theme that I found. Yeah, shame and guilt.
Yeah, that there's a big shame and guilt with food. All of that, I feel like lives in secrecy. So just like right now, just even acknowledging it and sharing it and getting out there is just like, I want to run my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I didn't get really present to that those two were really big in my life until doing work in eating recovery.
Nice. Yeah. So did you actually have like a professional help, or did you just have like?
I have a dietitian and a therapist, and then I went to a group to get
out to support teams.
Yeah, support teams.
Super cool.
And just having two connections with people who had been through it was huge. Is huge still.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have had a lot of support from my partner, who's just been with me through the trenches. And
shout out to the best partner ever.
Yes, thank you, David. He's been so incredible in supporting me. I don't think that I could have like faced it without that. So
awesome.
Yeah, and I think I'm really lucky to have had like a team to kind of help through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have to do it all alone.
No, and in fact, it's much harder to do it alone.
Yeah.
So that's something that I do appreciate about myself, is I've always been like willing to receive wisdom and help and support from others.
Has it always been easy for you to ask for help?
Asking for help's different.
Receiving it is easy, but asking, yes.
I think I'm like pretty open to like hearing what works and what people have done, or what I might be missing. I think asking for help is a different thing, and I think that's also something I hear so commonly from like all the people around me, or lots of people around me, that asking for help
so
is
much
really
with
hard
you
thing.
yourself and your story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think the more that we can like say that we want to help each other, we're available for help, like we want to receive help, because we are social beings by nature, we're social creatures.
Yeah.
And it's just part of it, and so it's kind of resisting that or trying to go against that is maybe not the most helpful thing for the whole.
Yeah, and when I hear about that, being available to give help and receive help, I'm just glad that I'm connected with a community that values integrity to a certain point.
Yeah.
You know, if to say like, I can help with a false face, and say like, no, I'm actually not available, then it's not a person that I want to be in community with.
I think that's something that I really value about the Ecstatic Man's Own Culture community, who is very, very open and in touch in so many ways, is the emphasis around like consent and boundaries. And so when someone does show up for me, I know that they can show up for me. And when someone says no, I'm not available for that, like I always hear in the consent world like a no to you is a yes to me. And so I feel like I can really trust when that support is there, and that people have like navigated that for themselves before connecting with me.
Super cool.
Yeah, and something I also try to like be present with and check in with too.
Yeah.
And I love that that's a value of our community.
Reciprocate and just live it, love it.
Yeah.
So what's up in 2020? What's ahead?
What's up in 2020? Well, the thing that I'm most excited for in 2020 is movement camp. So I've never gone to movement camp before, and it's every year in April in Thailand. And last year I went to the European Movement meeting for the first time. It was my first event with Ido Portal, movement culture. And it was just incredible, and I just saw like the quality and the depth and the overall just philosophy and way of life, and it like clicked for me. I was like, oh, I get why people like follow him and follow this movement and live their life by this.
Yeah. And
I want to be part of this. So I'm very excited about that prospect this year.
Nice.
Yes.
That's super cool.
Yeah. How about you? What's up in 2020 for you?
What's up in 2020? You know, movement camp could be pretty cool. Burning Man could also be pretty cool. I mean, my life has just been going towards this. What's possible? What's cool? Being with cool, weird people, embracing the inner weirdo, woo-woo stuff. So it's been a lot of just like, what could Tyler go and do? I'm finishing out like these personal transformation intensive weekends. It's been like 5 weekends, once a month, with a group of people coming together. Each one has a theme: addiction, trauma and abuse. The drama triangle. The victim, the persecutor, and the rescuer. Yeah. So that's like, I'm just kind of like getting more information about like being a human with boundaries and connecting with others.
Yeah. So
that's kind of percolating in my life. And other than that, it's a lot of mysteries. I got a great vision board with a lot of words on it, like balance and inner wisdom. I've spent so long trying to find out what to do from other people, I've kind of not really paid attention to what I already know. Mm-hmm. I may have learned along the way. So,
yeah, learning to like listen to that inner wisdom. I'm definitely on that journey too. I think it takes some time to just like get to a place of like, oh, I do have inner wisdom.
Or to trust myself enough to actually walk the path and make some mistakes and gain some knowledge, and then be like, hey, Google, what do I do? How do I do this thing that it's hard? Yeah. So, I guess that's what's up. That's what's up with me.
Awesome. I just wanted to ask, I heard you say the drama triangle.
Yeah.
Is that, so what I remember from the drama triangle is it's the victim, the villain, and the hero. And then you graduate to the victim becomes the creator when they take charge of their own life.
The empowerment triangle. The empowerment dynamic.
Oh, this is the empowerment. Okay.
Yeah, keep going though. It's awesome.
And the hero becomes the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than rescuing, they teach one how to like...
I've heard it also as coach.
Or coach.
Yeah,
great. And then the villain becomes the challenger.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I remember hearing this actually on a podcast, I think like 1 or 2 years ago. And whenever I feel like I'm a victim and there's like a villain, I'm like, okay, this is a gift. I'm being challenged, and what I ultimately want is growth. And like reframing that has been really helpful.
Yeah, reframing that to be like, this is a gift. That's one way of thinking of it, but also just thinking of it as like a challenge instead of like being a victim is super cool. Also, I will acknowledge, at least for myself, that it doesn't make it any easier in the moment. It's easier to look back and be like, I used my resources, but when stuff sucks, it still sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 3 years ago at one of another peer coach at Peer Seattle, who has just been this beautiful human I've looked up to, invited me to graduate. He was hearing me share something, and I kept saying this struggle, and he invited me to upgrade this word from struggle to challenge. And I was like, whoa, and it really shifted how I perceived things and experienced things.
Yeah.
It was, I just like remember that moment so well and how I've used that since then.
Wow, that's super cool.
It's like now I want to like rise to the challenge, or like this challenge is gonna give me growth in some way, or
Power of role models, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Power of role models and power of language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of role models growing up, so I remember hearing the quote some years ago, like, you are the sum of, all the people you are in contact with on a daily basis. And that was at the point where it was just kind of like me and my wife, and I worked at home, and I didn't have any really friends who I would hang out with ever. I sold my car. I was like very much alone, and I was like, I'm not getting a lot of outside influence these days. So now I'm really, really grateful to be in a space where I could reap some of your wisdom, share some of my story, and then I think that's what the Lumbertron podcast is all about.
I love it.
It's just a healthy exchange of magic.
Yes.
Cool.
Healthy exchange of magic.
Yeah. There it is.
There it is.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for asking and having me.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy 2020.
Happy 2020.
Woo-hoo.
You can't see it, but I'm totally dancing with excitement right now. So good. I'm so grateful to be able to talk to such cool people, and Emily is a really, really cool one. I hope you enjoyed this taste of the magic that the Lumbertron podcast has to offer. Please send all of the words over to lumbertronic@gmail.com. And until next time, Keep sharing your story.